we feel it's important to offer these opportunities to our community so you guys can make more informed choices when you vote. So we're happy to be here to do that for you today. We will be putting this on Facebook. We're doing Facebook Live right now, so you guys can go back and watch it later, or if you have friends that miss it, they can check it out. We did District 1 last week, and you can look at that one too if you have any desire. I'm going to introduce, I want to thank St. Margaret's for having us here today, and I want to introduce Father Andrew.
Thank you all for being here, and welcome to St. Margaret's. I'm Andrew Butler. I'm the rector here. I've been here for about 4 years, and it's a delight to see you all here. We don't support or endorse candidates either at St. Margaret's, but we do believe as Christians that it's important that we are involved as voters and in civic life, and it's a very important thing for us. So we also have 2 founding principles. One is to respect the dignity of every human being. I think hopefully everyone can agree on that. And to love our neighbors as ourselves. We don't always get it right, but that's what we strive for. So it's within that context that I welcome you here to the Current Community Center, and thank you for being here.
Next, I'd like to invite our sponsor and MC for today to come on up. This is Craig Michaels of Better Homes and Gardens Desert Lifestyle Properties.
Thank you very much. Guys, what a great crowd tonight. Yes. I love it. I've been blessed to live here for 36 years in the desert, 15 right here in Palm Desert, so I love the city as much as you guys, and I was very pleased to be asked to be a part of it. Tonight, as she mentioned, we've got 3 people seeking the seats in District 2. The questions were submitted by community members, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question, and we'll give a 1 minute and 30 second, and then it time's up, and then if they don't get off, we give it the big hook. Is that right?
Something like that.
Greg Ackerman, first of all, is our first candidate. Give him a round of applause. And next is Kathleen Kelly. She's our second candidate. And Joe Bernetto. Joe, come on. You watch your fan club, all right.
I told him not to come.
So, to begin with, we'll give each candidate 90 seconds to get up and introduce themselves, and then we'll get right into the questions, and we'll rotate on who goes first. So I'll tell you what, Joe, why don't you go ahead and be the first one up, and you can take that mic right there.
So in this time of political division, I thought I'd start off with trying to find some common ground with my opponents, things we can agree upon. The first thing is Ms. Kelly said that this is a nonpartisan election, and I agree with that, although I do find it odd coming from a registered partisan, a registered Democrat. I do agree that it is a nonpartisan election, which means we need to be focused on results and reason. And she also says that her results are proven, considering she's been on city council for 8 years, and we see acrimony on the council at an all-time high. We see crime and homelessness rising. We see reckless spending putting us into budget duress and in need of a bailout. I would agree. The results are proven to fail. And when things don't work, you make a change. That's reason. That's what Mr. Ackerman has been saying, and I agree with that. And I think right now we're seeing in our city that things aren't working. We need to make a change, and I'm running because I think I'm the right candidate to bring that change. As a planning commissioner and former special district president, as a city director and former chief of staff, I know how to implement, I know how to make policy and implement it. I know how to lead and to execute. And I'm running with the vision of making Palm Desert safer and more prosperous. So tonight, I hope to earn your trust as the candidate to build the future and a community that you want to leave for the generations to come.
Thank you so much for coming. This is a tremendous turnout. I value each and every person here. You are what inspires me to serve each and every day. And you inspired me in my first term as mayor to unify a very diverse council around key multi-year goals to move this city forward. We are already achieving significant gains through being unified around those goals. $79 million to expand our CSU campus, adoption of a broadband master plan, implementation of which will give us better competition and lower prices, strategic initiatives that brought a buyer to our mall who will invest and position it for future success. 35 miles of improved walking paths and bike trails. I'm not going to play political games. I'm not going to twist facts about the past. I'm going to keep working on those significant goals that will give us all a quality of life in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you for being here. There's so much you might be doing on a beautiful day like this, and I appreciate you taking the time. My name is Greg Ackerman, and I am a first-day husband and a proud parent, and I am a local business owner, and I am just a proud civic advocate right here in Palm Desert. I got more involved during the COVID shutdown. I became a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee, where I was a chair for a year. I've been on the Civic Engagement Committee, loving that, having a good time getting more involved with the city. And as I became more involved and went to more functions and city council meetings, I started to see things I thought we could do better. I saw things that I didn't like the way they were run behind the scenes when I would hear people talk after the meetings and around the corners. And I thought, I'm tempted to start complaining about that. But you know what? Let's just do something about it. Let's run for council. Let's put up or shut up. Let's do something about this. So I'm here to be more involved in the city than ever before. I grew up in the area, love Palm Desert. I'm basically a product of what Palm Desert can do for a person as they progress through life. And I look forward to getting to know more about you, and maybe you'll know a little bit more about me along the way also. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to get into our questions once again, and our first one to our candidates is, how do you plan to foster greater civic engagement and make city government more transparent and accessible to the community? And we'll go ahead and have Joe start first.
So in my about 15 years in government and many working for elected officials, I know the importance of fostering community engagement and, more importantly, being transparent. And one of the things I've done in my campaign is say right up from the start, I'm not going to agree with everyone, but I will show you my homework, and you can point to me where I'm wrong. So as I run, and if I'm elected, I will continue that commitment that I'm not going to guarantee that we always agree, but I will show you my homework, and we can go ahead and talk about the issues and compare notes and come to an amicable agreement or disagreement. But that is really my commitment, is showing my homework, letting us come to different conclusions and being okay with that. And in my opinion, I think one of the things that I have developed in government is a commitment to using direct, simple language that people find approachable and something that people find inherently transparent. And that's something that I commit to bring day in and day out to build that trust and transparency.
Thank you.
We should just keep it. One of my proudest achievements on council is establishing our Civic Engagement Committee, which exists to address this very need. Emily Vogt is the chairperson, Craig is a member of that committee. We have about 15 diverse members of the community bringing ideas to this question. They have established a civic academy now has close to 100 graduates, people who fully understand our city processes and are peppered throughout the community. But it comes down to this. I love meeting people. This summer, I have already knocked on 1,400 doors. Haven't seen my friends out there. And I intend to knock on 600 more, because each and every conversation is meaningful to me. And when my city council service continues, I will continue to be on each and every street of this district, engaging with folks about your neighborhood-specific issues and your broader questions. Thank you.
And Kate, could you read the question again?
Sure. How do you plan to foster greater civic engagement and make city government more transparent and accessible to the community?
Well, with civic engagement, we just heard that I am a member of that wonderful new committee, and I'm definitely excited about the prospects to do more engagement through that committee. But I will go ahead and mention one example of transparency. Let's go ahead and just focus in on one little area where I think we can make a difference. There is a Measure G, which I bet we'll talk about more later, but it's to pass a new sales tax in Palm Desert. And there is some language in it that basically says we don't have to spend the money on any particular thing if we don't want to. That to me is a recipe for bad things. It would be a lack of transparency. It's a lack of oversight. So what I would like to see is either if the measure were passed, I will be on the front lines trying to make sure that our council is held to accountability so that there is transparency. If we are supposed to be spending that money on X, Y, and Z, then the city and all of us, the residents, need to know that that's really happening. And I will be right there to make sure that that transparency is very obvious. If Measure G does not pass, I will hopefully be on the council, and I will be a part of the next wave. And if we do need to pass a tax measure eventually, I will build into it that oversight to make sure that there is transparency, and the money can't just be spent on anything, anywhere, at any time. It has to be limited to certain projects. So that's one little area I know I can help with transparency, and there'll be much more of that later on, I think, when we talk about taxes and so on, assuming we get there. Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, Joe, if you want to grab the next one. So our next question is, what is your vision for the city's economic growth, and how do you plan to attract new businesses while supporting existing small businesses?
Over the summer, I was watching the news and I saw an LA business owner who was just his business at 4 a.m. There was a mass smash and grab, and the criminals drove off with everything. Took everything, even his guitars, everything. And he was on the news and he was crying, literally in tears, because his whole life had been taken. And he's saying, why hasn't the city protected us? He says, I feel like they're protecting criminals more than they're protecting the law-abiding citizens. And he said, I voted for this leadership and they don't have our back. And I remember at that point thinking, I even called my buddy Evan Truby and I said, we got to get me elected so that when stuff like that happens in LA, we can call those business owners up and say, we got your back. We got you safe. You can come do business here. We'll make sure to protect you and take care of you. And more importantly, as I think about the future and I think about what businesses and people look for when investing, they look in for leadership, they look for vigor, and I think that I can bring that to our council and an ability to sell our destination and instill faith and confidence and trust in the people looking to do business here.
Well, the challenge Joe has is that we've already done the things he says he would like to I strongly advocated for the installation of automatic license plate readers throughout Palm Desert. We've installed 150. They have deterred the kinds of crime he described. They have deterred car thefts. Why? Because they help our officers to catch any criminals immediately. They figure that out. They take their crime someplace else. Crime statistics are down, not up, down. 20% year over year. I have been a huge backer of our innovation hub since its inception. It is growing new entrepreneurs, and that's what defines us. Unique businesses that make it more pleasurable for us to live here, that give people a reason to shop here. The CSU campus, as it grows, will provide our businesses with a qualified workforce. And I have guarded reserves to make sure that we could be there for our businesses with strategic help, support for installation of security cameras, support for bike racks and alternative transportation. Our businesses know they can trust I've been endorsed by the Greater Coachella Valley Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
They've already hit on at least two very smart people that business and economic growth is tied directly to public safety. I've been a small business owner and an entrepreneur most of my life, and so I can really appreciate how that is, there's a strong connection from one to the other. Palm Desert is lucky that for years and years we've had a very good brand that some other cities in the Coachella Valley don't have. We have an excellent brand as a destination for shopping and dining. People love coming to Palm Desert. We all know why. It's a wonderful place to shop and dine. But in recent years, we've had some problems with crime. I know numbers are flexible sometimes depending on how you look at them and when you start and when you end. But in 2020, the council slashed the police budget millions of dollars. That is a fact. Within 2 years, violent crime went up 45%. That is a fact. That is FBI statistics. That's not, math wizardry. So if we're going to really get behind our businesses and say, we've got your back, we really need to show that by getting public safety in line, by doing something about the violent crime statistics. So I want to make this pledge that public safety and the police budget is my #1 priority. We've got to restore the kind of numbers we had before that major big cut in 2020. And I will be hot on that path from the very first day I'm on the council to make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gentlemen, the next question is, how will you engage with and ensure that all members of the community, including the underrepresented groups, have a voice in the city's decision-making progress?
So, first of all, I think after this question, we need to rotate who goes right, because I was just going to say next question, we have to rotate, because I keep going first, and then they get to respond to what I say. But in terms of what we can do to engage all of our members in our community, it's doing this. It's going to, Ms. Kelly's going door to door. She hasn't seen me out there, that's fine. I've been knocking doors. I've knocked on some of your doors, and some of you guys are here hold up her signs and put down my signs. So you know that I've been at your doors. But more importantly, I do want to say that engaging everyone is right, and I have to bring this up because Mr. Ackerman has again said something with which I agree completely. That's a good idea. These are the FBI statistics that Mr. Ackerman was referencing. As you can see, there is a line of crime in Palm Desert. And it doesn't have to be that way because Cathedral City is lowering its crime rate. And La Quinta seems to be flat, and they're of relative similar size. 20% over year. We talk about transparency. I'll tell you, when I started doing my homework in the crime trends, I looked at the FBI crime stats and I said, this is great. The problem is it stops at 2022, which is the last date available. So when my team and I started going and doing our research to find the 2023 crime stats, the city used to have these monthly reports that made it very easy to compile the numbers. And when we asked for the numbers, guess what? They disappeared. And what came up in their place? Weekly summaries of crime instances that are very hard to compile trends. I have screenshots of this. Talk about a lack of transparency. That's disgusting. So this is what we're fighting for right here. And if there's no engaging the community, if people don't feel safe in the community, and I go back and agree with Mr. Ackerman that this is a real issue. Cameras do not arrest people or stop crimes in progress.
The best way to engage people is to always tell the truth and never manipulate information for political advantage. Manipulation for political advantage is exactly what is happening here. Immediately after the pandemic, there was a nationwide uptick in certain crimes. Palm Desert was not immune, but more significantly, we stayed remarkably safe by comparison to statewide averages. The information for 2023 and 2024 to date is readily available. It is shared with our Public Safety Committee every month. The agenda documents are online. And those are the documents from which I extracted the statistics I shared with you. There was no slashing of budgets in 2020. With the expectation that sales tax would plummet, the public safety team, the sheriff's office, proposed moving some office duties to community service officers so deputies could focus on crime. And of course, we approved that proposal. I have approved every single proposal from our public safety team in office. I'm proud to say that we've added officers strategically in the last 4 years to the business district team and as a school support officer. You can count on me for the truth and the full picture.
I think the original question got slightly turned around the corner there, so I'm going to try to come back to it. How can we engage people with different demographics?
Did I read it again?
Sure.
Okay. How will you engage with and ensure that all members of the community, including the underrepresented groups, have a voice in the city decision-making process?
There you go. Okay. So I will do a little of that or express some of that information through some of my endorsements. I'm very proud to have the endorsements of the Honor PAC. They are in support of Latino issues and LGBTQ plus issues. I've got them behind my campaign. I'm very lucky that I'm a caregiver to my 93-year-old mother. It's an honor. So I think I've also got a lot of experience with senior living and what it takes to accommodate some of those things as a person goes into dementia and having to find expanded health care for people like that. I'm trying to expand myself also into the areas that a lot of people in Palm Desert care about, which is just environmental issues and water conservation, and where can we get microgrids and our power in the future. I'm trying to learn a lot of this. I'm listening and open-minded. I've talked to some of the people in this room about many of those issues. So I think that I walk the walk and talk the talk as far as being involved with lots of different demographics, and I know that they consider myself an ally to their causes. Thank you very much.
There you go. Our next one, we'll start with Kathleen, and we'll rotate through and give everyone a different chance to start out. So, Kathleen, how will you prioritize spending within the city budget, and which areas do you believe need increased funding or investment?
I think we all agree that public safety is paramount. If we aren't safe, nothing else we have is worthwhile. So, of course, that has to be a priority. There are some key investments that we have to make. We enjoy a great quality of life because past leaders made investments then for our benefit now, such as flood control, such as building fire stations in response to growth. Our current growth demands a new fire station. The vintage of our current fire stations demands major investment to enable them to continue to deliver services effectively. Despite our great investments in flood control, recent storms have exposed places where we need to bolster. And so that is another key front where we need to make investments today for the benefit of tomorrow. This will bleed into our discussion of major G, the 1% sales tax, but I'll save that for a future question.
How will you prioritize spending within the city budget, and which areas do you believe need increased funding or investment?
Thank you. The city staff recently released a report within the last 6 months that says if we do nothing, our reserves will be gone in 3 years. A lot of people don't know that, but it's there in the report. The key to that, for me, the optimistic in me says, well, the good part is if we do nothing, this will happen. So we just have to not do nothing. That will just, that will help, right? So I get the feeling in the last several years, our council has gotten used to spending these reserves. It's become normalized. And we all know that if we're dipping into our emergency account to spend money on our monthly bills, you can only get away for that so long. So I feel like we've had a council that's been used to spending a little bit more than they should have. And there's been some promises made that I don't think we should have been making. In the last few years, we've been hearing things about, let's get a new library building. I would love a new library building. But if the city is going to be out of money in 3 years, maybe we don't get a new library. I would love 2 new parks. For crying out loud, I'm on the Parks and Rec Committee. I was the sheriff for a year. But if the city is going to go broke in 3 years, maybe we don't get 2 new parks. We have to be careful about that. So I sort of feel like the council has been the parent, the fun parent. And if I'm lucky enough to be elected, I might be the parent of no. Which kind of sucks. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you are the no parent. That might be my job, but I'm willing to do that. So we're going to have to look at things like that, the parks, the libraries, and some of those things and say, maybe we have to wait. We've got to get the public safety issues straightened out first. We need everyone who comes to Palm Desert to feel safe. Our residents, our tourists, our small business owners, our large business owners. If people don't feel safe in Palm Desert, they won't spend their money in Palm Desert. So I might have to be the one who says no to some stuff, but it's for a good reason. Thank you.
Lasorda when he was coaching the Dodgers, and there was a time that the team just couldn't hit the ball the size of their hat. And one day, Tommy gets a call from a scout in Nebraska that says, "Hey boss, I found this pitcher. He threw a no-hitter. Nobody even touched the ball until somebody hit a foul in the last inning. Should I sign him?" And Lasorda said, "No, sign the guy who hit the foul ball. We need hitters." Tommy Lasorda was a leader who knew how to focus on the priorities and not chase shiny things. And I think same thing here, as we see that we're coming into a position where we may or may not get the money we need to sustain. We have tough decisions coming ahead. And one of those is, again, our public safety. We're down 6.5 deputies from 2019, and I think we need to up that. And that might mean saying no to some things. And like President Reagan once said, "I've never encountered a government program that voluntarily decided to reduce itself." You have to force that kind of thing. You have to look, and you have to be disciplined, and you have to make uncomfortable decisions. I think Mr. Ackerman's right. As parents, I think we have that inherent knowing that you can't say yes to all your kids' desires. It'll never lead to prosperity.
Thank you. All right, next question will go to Greg. You mentioned this earlier. Measure G will be on the ballot in November. It is the Palm Desert Public Safety Roads City Services measure. It seeks voter approval to authorize a 1-cent sales tax to maintain city services. Please tell us your thoughts and opinion on Measure G.
When all of you get your ballots in a few weeks, they're supposed to go out around October 7th. Hopefully you will flip all through it and see the Palm Desert pages, and there will be Measure G, and there will be an argument for it and an argument against it. At the bottom of the argument against it, you will see my name as one of the authors. So that's how I stand on Measure G, to be right to the point. But why? Yes, I know we need improvements, especially in public safety. I'm obviously not ignorant to that. But I think we've jumped over some steps. I went to a lot of the city council meetings. I went to a lot of the outreach meetings about the topic. I've looked and poured through a lot of online budget information, some of which is very difficult to suss out because they used to categorize it this way, and as of this year they stopped doing it, and now you can't compare apples to apples anymore. It's tricky. But I put the time in. I've figured out a lot of stuff about Measure G and the taxes and the revenue. And I don't think we need it right now because it doesn't have built-in oversight. And that just makes it too risky to me. Will our council spend it on the good stuff? Hopefully, maybe. Just in case though, what about a council 10 years from now who doesn't have the same sensibility? They might abuse it because it says in there we can spend it any way we need to if we want to. So I'm opposed to spending more at every store in Palm Desert. You might hear people say, 70% of the new taxes will come from tourists. But don't get confused by that number. When you're in line at Target with a big ticket purchase, there will not be a Canadian behind you saying, "Can I help with that purchase?" 100% of all of us will be spending more money in taxes. All of us. We won't be getting help from them. So look at it closely. Read the argument for, read the argument against, and the rebuttal. See what you think. You might learn something, and I hope you'll come to what I've come to learn. And so I'm no on G. Maybe you'll hear some other thoughts on that too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My opinion of Measure G is it's a clear evidence and indication that the city's finances haven't been as well run as we would like to believe. And we are now coming to a point where we have to make a decision whether we're going to say yes or no. Regardless of the outcome, I think acknowledging that things have not been as well run as we thought, we need to hold those who put us in this position accountable. So I think you have to fire politicians who put us in this position, bottom line. However, when I look at our budget, I see that it is balanced on the back of public safety cuts. And we have fire safety coming, which is about $12 million combined. When I look at our budget and I think, how would I cut $12 million to upstaff our deputies the way we need to and staff our fire stations? It's not pretty. It is not pretty. It's not cutting fat. It's cutting muscle, it's cutting limbs. So unfortunately, I'm a reluctant yes on G at the moment because I think elect people who are going to be fiscally responsible to make sure that we don't end up in this position again, and that even though this raises $25 million and 12 is necessary for funding, I think Mr. Ackerman is correct. We need to look for people who are going to be fiscally responsible, and I have that track record as a special district president. I took a small district from not filing any of its audits on time and distress to being filing on time and being transparent and balancing the budget and funding good programs. I'll bring that to the city of Palm Desert.
Well, so far the guys have been funnier than I have. But I have to talk to you about some very, very serious facts and history. I mentioned the investment past leaders made in flood control that kept us safe during Hillary. I've mentioned the investments past leaders have made in fire stations that give us truly nation-leading emergency response times. Those investments were possible because of something called redevelopment. How many of you have heard of it? It was a system through which, in essence, a smart city like ours could shift some of the property tax from the state to us to pay for those kind of investments. Jerry Brown figured that out, so he hinted it in 2012. For 12 years, your excellent city staff and council have managed to maintain investments in infrastructure, even though on a $5,000 property tax bill, we get maybe $4. Meanwhile, neighboring cities have built up retail to compete with our retail, using higher sales taxes to create the supportive infrastructure. La Quinta has a higher sales tax, Indio, Palm Springs. They're building retail that competes with ours, and they're supporting it with infrastructure fueled by that higher sales tax. We have put off finding an alternative source of revenue to redevelopment for 12 years. Kudos to us. But we need it now if we want to preserve our quality of life. And telling people in one part of town they don't get to have a park is not how we do things in Palm Desert.
What makes you the proudest to be a resident of Palm Desert?
When I take a hike on a beautiful day or walk through the park with my family, and it's blue skies and perfect weather, and the mountains are pristine, that makes me the most proud of living in Palm Desert. And that's what I'm running to protect. And that's what I'm running to give to everyone in this city. But that's what makes me most proud.
Thank you. Kathleen?
Palm Desert is a unique place. We are both progressive and conservative. We are progressive and have been since our inception because we believe every single resident should enjoy wonderful amenities, good transportation, good roads, good education, good access to recreation, good access to culture. That's why it's so important to keep the investment in every part of our city the same. And we are conservative in adhering to core values. One of those values has been to keep national politics out of city government. We all want the same things. We want good policing. We want good city services. All you have to figure out is who has shown it can actually deliver. I am proud that 4 out of the 5 planning commissioners who have seen the candidates at work endorse me. They have diverse political backgrounds, but they know who's talk and who's walk. And they appreciate the way in which I carefully study issues and deliver results for all the residents. I promise you, I know the historic values of this city to deliver good amenities to each and every resident and to truly respect the dignity of every human being. That you can count on.
I'll get into the Wayback Machine for just a second. My father brought the family to the Coachella Valley in the 60s and got hired as one of the early staff professors at College of the Desert. So I have a fondness as far as being proud of something for COD specifically. And when my turn came when I was 18 years old, I actually went to COD. I remember it was about $50 a semester. Oh my gosh, wonderful. I went there 2 years, and because there was not really an option, I had the opportunity to attend a 4-year university elsewhere, and off I went, and eventually had a career in another city, other cities, as a professor of music. But then about 13 years ago, I decided to move back to the desert, my home, and to be closer to family, and basically I've been here ever since, getting more involved and just falling all in love with the city over again. And what I'm so proud of, to get to the point, by the way, what's your name? Ruby? You don't all know it, Ruby's down here holding up little signs telling us hurry up. What I'm very proud of for the future is, unlike what could happen for my generation, I'm so proud that now we have a young person who can graduate high school, go to COD, maybe for free, go to a 4-year program right here in Palm Desert, and then maybe even get a job in their career, perhaps as retail management or hotel management, tourist industry, and that our best and brightest don't have to leave. That's what I'm really proud of. A young person can now grow up in the Coachella Valley, finish a wonderful education right here in our area, and even have a career and raise the next generation of family right here in beautiful Palm Desert. I'm very proud to see that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question goes to Kathleen. How will you instill confidence in your leadership from people who did not vote for you?
Well, that'll be easy. I truly love all people. I love to talk to people. I love to understand them. I love to hear their concerns. And I will continue to be the person I am. I will continue to reach out to past friends who have supported someone else and to hear their heartfelt concerns. Plain and simply, I don't need all my time for this question. I will just keep being me.
Excellent. I have been knocking on a lot of doors, and some of the time I've been yelled at. I've been sort of pushed away. Other people have been very welcoming and embraced me. That's wonderful. But I'm just letting you know that there's a lot of different personalities and different beliefs and people from different areas of the political spectrum throughout the Palm Desert. And if you're going to walk down the street, and I'm putting myself on their front door, it's my own fault, and I'm going to go ahead and smile, and I'm going to be open to what they're sharing with me, because I know it's real for them. They're not mad at me, it's not personal, but they're mad about something, or they're passionate about something. They have some great concern, and they think that I might be part of the problem or part of the solution, and that's okay. I don't take it personally. So most of the people who know me know that although I may not be able to be everybody's friend, I will almost always be able to be friendly. That's just how I like to behave in my life. It's the old golden rule. So if I do happen to knock on your door next, if I haven't done so yet, maybe you want to say something nasty, maybe you want to say something nice, it's okay. But I bet you'll see me just smile and say, thank you for sharing, and have a good day, I'll see you later. That's kind of how I roll. Thank you very much.
I think it's the same thing. Anyone who sat down with me and talked, I think we don't have to agree, but we can talk, show homework, and discuss issues. I'll remain open, accessible, and that's just who I am. But a few years ago, I do remember there was, I don't know, you may recall Yanni versus Laurel. It was kind of an audio illusion. There was the same sound that would play, but people would come away hearing two opposite things. Yanni, Yanni, Laurel, Laurel. They would fight. In fact, I think one holiday, it almost came to blows in one of my family parties. I do know, it could have been like whether the band Bush was any good or not. I know that it wasn't about baseball or politics because somebody would have died. It's a rambunctious group. But, you know, what I'm hearing today is Yanni, Laurel. I hear that city's great, things are happening really well, and then there's a whole other world that I see things aren't well, and that the talk isn't matching the walk, you know? And so I think that there's a lot of folks here who see a disconnect, and that things aren't working as well as we're being told. And you can see it, and you know, we have different opinions. That's one of the reasons I'm around. I don't see things working very well. And the other thing I think about too is thinking of the core functions of government and what they are, especially a city, a contract city like ours, parks, pavement, police. I think that we're not nailing it on police, which is one of the most important things. So kind of reminds me of my daughter, who she's 8 years old, and she'll say, I'll say, hey, go clean your room, and she'll disappear for an hour, and then she'll resurface, and she'll say, can I play a game? And I'll say, did you clean your room? And she'll say, well, I brushed the dog, I made a bracelet for my friend's birthday, and look, now I'm giving you a hug. And I say, kid, I love all those things. I want more of those things. But did you clean your room? We need to focus on the core function of safety, and everything else is a distraction from the record.
How do you plan to ensure Palm Desert remains an environmentally sustainable city? And what specific policies would you implement to promote green energy and water conservation?
And I have, a whole 2 minutes to... I'm going to go to maybe narrow it down a little bit. I was fortunate enough to attend the Water Academy. That's a 5-week course that's put together by all of the water agencies in the Coachella Valley. And most of the people in the room with me were golf course managers and hotel managers who had large expanses with a lot of irrigation issues. But I was there just to educate myself. And what I learned is we are lucky in that we do have this beautiful aquifer that is underneath us and naturally was always full of a lot of water. But we are using it up. And what we do every year is we buy water from the Colorado River to replace what we took out of the aquifer. So it's not something we can do forever if they ever turn off the spigot on the Colorado River, because suddenly then we have to use all of our own aquifer water, which would eventually start draining and our city would start sinking, like we've seen in Central California or in Mexico City, where that's happening. The water goes, the ground sinks. So we're okay for now as long as we keep getting our water from the Colorado River. But what I'm very concerned with as a property owner is if we don't do something to stay up with our water levels, that affects our property values. All the business owners, all the people who own property here, if we can't get water, our property values will tank. So it's a very personal issue to me, and I want to be, as a city council member, at the forefront of making sure our city does a good job of leading by example. I'll go on record right now, I don't like the idea of a surf park. I'm very concerned that in 5 to 10 years we will end up with a giant empty dirt hole that used to be full of water. Because we've had other water parks in the area that failed. We might have as many as 2 or 3 other surf parks in the region that would compete with us for these finite number of customers. I'm very worried about that being wasteful of water and not a good choice, and I hope we can avoid such things in the future. Thank you very much.
I recently went solar, and it's, if you're familiar with how solar works, it's called NEM3, net metering, which means the utilities don't pay you to go solar. It's like the worst time to go. I did it because it's the first time I've been able to do so, and most importantly, because I wanted to get a battery. As an adult, and one of the things I've been saying in this campaign is, I think government should be small and efficient and enable residents and citizens to be self-sufficient. And I think becoming energy independent as individuals not only helps you as an individual, but relieves pressure on the entire grid and strengthens the grid, especially if you have a battery. That helps everybody in California. Because as adults, when the government can't solve a problem, we do it and we pitch in, and we don't expect a thank you. And I think that that's something that I will use the city bully pulpit to promote, is getting batteries and being self-sufficient, not only because for the environment, but for emergency redundancy. You're safe at home, your air conditioner stays on. You can stay home, and our emergency workers don't need to get to you and take you to a cooling center, things like that. And I'll tell you one more thing about water conservation. I'm a firm believer, and I've always been a firm believer for a very long time, and always look for ways to cut my water use, including one time that prompted me to do a turf conversion. It was June, 110 degrees outside, I mowed my lawn, and I missed a spot. And I got inside to the air conditioning, and I was feeling really great, and I was looking and marveling at my good work to see that I missed a spot. And it really bothered me, and I said, you know what, maybe I should go back and clean it up. I decided against it because I said, wait, I live in a desert. Why do I have a lawn? And then that's when I realized no sense in doing well, that should not be done at all. And I took pride in that missed spot, and I turned around and I did a turf conversion. And I think that we have to just promote, and it's mostly through the water district, but through good land uses, which is something I've done as a special district president with the Coachella Valley Resource Conservation District and a planning commissioner, and something that I continue to encourage for generations to come.
I absolutely agree with what Joe just said about energy resilience and energy independence. I want to take this step further, because not every resident can install solar and batteries. As we position them all for future success, we will have an opportunity, hopefully through a public-private partnership, to create a microgrid there using solar and battery power, so that we can hopefully create a model to be reproduced by other developments and enhance capacity there for a cooling center in the event of an emergency. The citywide goals I helped the council adopt in my first term as mayor included 40 environmental initiatives. There won't be time to list them, but they included installation of solar on all city property, help with landscapers in replacing gas-powered blowers, and so much more. I am proud of the work I'm doing at Sunline Transit, where we are promoting hydrogen fuel cell technology. It has tremendous potential for microgrid use in the future. The only byproduct from production of hydrogen fuel is oxygen. It's the best possible form of energy for the environment. So if we can run electrolyzers on solar power, that may be a better energy source for the future than even electricity. That groundbreaking work is happening right here through Sunline Transit, and I have been a leader in promoting it.
Thank you. The next question goes to Joe. And what are you doing to engage the young voters of Palm Desert?
Having kids. I thought about encouraging to vote too. That's a joke. It's kind of strange because I think my district is generally much older than me, and I think it's the reverse. I think it's all of you that are looking how to engage the future and supporting me. And you know, there's a lot of you here, and it's been amazing because there's so many people who are focused on where we are, acknowledging that we've had a great past, and that the city owes a lot to our past leadership, but also looking to the future and what that looks like, and who's best trained and equipped to carry that into the future. And I think it's actually a reversal, where all of you are taking it upon yourselves to look to the future and helping support me to make this city better for generations to come. So I thank all of you.
Interestingly, as I've knocked on doors, the generation most often at home is about 18 to 25. Young folks who are still living at home, working on hours, young folks at home from college. So I've engaged with many, many folks in that age bracket, and they inspire me because they're so hopeful. They're not bitter. They're not cynical. And what I share with them about my approach to service has resonated so well that most additions to my team have been in that age bracket. The young people of today are turned off by party politics, and they would love to be a part of a city committed, truly committed, to keeping national political issues out of City Hall and working together effectively for the benefit of everyone. That message resonates with our youth. That message motivates my service. Will be just fine. Thank you.
Probably like a lot of you during the COVID shutdown, you may have combined with other family members and sort of hunkered down. And I had the pleasure of having two of my adult children move back in with us. One of whom is yet to leave. It's okay. It's all right. We'll get there. But so I got to see again sort of firsthand what the 20-somethings are feeling about being engaged with politics. And yes, I do agree that they're optimistic. They have a wonderful, joyful look about life and things. But they're just not crazy about voting, what I've found is. So the best thing I've come up with is I'm just going to try to be a role model who doesn't insist and try to say, I'm right. I mean, what person of any age wants to hear that? But try saying that to, of course, someone who's younger. That, well, you know, in my day, you're going to quickly turn off the listener on that end. So I do what I can to be a role model by just acting in a way that is positive, engaged, to encourage people to read and partake and learn and listen and see what's going on. There's also the Civic Engagement Committee in town for the city that I'm a member of. I know we've talked about trying to expand some outreach to the youth. I hope we can still accommodate something like that. But it's a tough sell, and I will mention this. I hope that the young people will take responsibility of their own, because they know that they need to engage more, and I am seeing that happen. I'm meeting some young people who are very much engaged in trying to reach out to others of their own age. So if they take the responsibility and we act as good role models, I'm optimistic. I think we're going to see some good things in the next generations. Thank you.
Our next question goes to Kathleen. How will you address the issue of affordable housing in our city, and what specific policies would you advocate to support low and middle income families?
This is an area of true excellence in which Palm Desert is leading in the Coachella Valley. We have affordable housing interspersed throughout our city to a far greater degree than most people realize, because it is of such high quality that it does not call attention to itself. Right now, we have about 1,200 units approved, 750 of which are actually under construction. They are of excellent quality with terrific amenities for residents and wraparound services to give support to folks who may need it for economic counseling or other reasons. Consistent with our pattern, that housing is interspersed with market rate housing. But here's another front where I have to give you the hard facts. We've achieved that in large part by assisting developers with funds that came from redevelopment and will run dry through no fault of ours. We made better use of redevelopment than any other city in the valley. That's why we are excelling at supporting affordable housing. But this is a key front where Major G is vital, not because we've mismanaged, but because we are managing well and planning for the future and presenting the voters with a good choice before there is a crisis. Please keep in mind the cities with which we compete for retail customers have had the benefit of a higher sales tax now for several years. The amenities we want for ourselves and our fellow residents, including affordable housing, hinge on replacing the utility redevelopment gave to us.
Another huge issue with only a little bit of time to talk about, so I'm going to narrow it down quite a bit. I was contacted just this week by a voter who said, what can you do about senior housing needs in Palm Desert? And I said, as my response was, well, tell you what, educate me. What's your experience been? What drives that question? And she said, well, for me, I have found that the waiting list is 5 or 6 years long. So that was her biggest problem. There just isn't enough. And it was difficult to figure out where it is, what's available, and what about this waiting list? So I went and did some more research, and wonderfully, our city website does have a section, a page or two, that has all of our housing opportunities listed. And I'm thrilled to see that it's there. But this is one of those areas where I would very much like to work with city staff, because it seems to be designed more for a bureaucrat to use than an average person. I just wanted to find out, where could someone find all of the potential for senior housing? And you'd have to click through this page and find that little section, but then go to another page and look for the portion over here that you needed, and you'd have to keep hunting and pecking for what could be a very lengthy time. And the very demographic that needs that information is probably the least likely to be able to do that. So here's one little thing I would like to do to help with the housing issue, is that I would love to just work and make sure we redesign a webpage like that so the information is organized in a way that the average user needs it to be organized. And that's one little thing I can do to help. And of course, we'll chip away at the bigger issues, but maybe it's baby steps, one thing at a time. Thank you.
One of the things that made me proud to be a resident of Palm Desert is the feeling that we were able to do more with less and be more efficient and do things better. And one of the things that I keep hearing about the sales tax is, well, other cities have higher sales tax, and that's fine, but where's the pride in having lower taxes and being able to make do with them? I think that there's some pride in being able to do with less and make more available for money in your pockets. The same applies to housing. I have friends who make 100,000 plus who can't afford a house. And so housing is broken. And there's a number of cost factors that go into housing, and labor, materials, land costs. But one of the big ones are development fees. And I think that's one where the city can work at pushing the development fees as low as possible. And in housing in general, one thing that we're seeing from Sacramento is that the legislature is actually removing restrictions to housing and allowing more housing to go in by right, sidestepping our zoning laws. That tells me that Sacramento says, you know what, the problem to housing is government intervention. And so I don't think more government intervention will help the housing problem. I think we need to lower fees and create more flexibility in our zoning laws, which the city has done. And as a planning commissioner, I voted and supported in creating smaller lots up and around the university area that create products that are more affordable. But I think in general, housing on the aggregate is we need to look at housing for everybody using market, just using market conditions and letting the market dictate how it does as much as possible.
Next question goes to Greg. If you could change only one thing during your time on city council, what would it be?
That's easy. Term limits. To get right to it. After addressing public safety, term limits is to me a big issue. I'm kind of torn on that because I've often thought, well, we have term limits. It's called an election. But I've also learned in this process of running this time, and I also ran 4 years ago. I've never been elected to anything, just to let you know. I'm still kind of new at this, but I'm enjoying the process. But what I've learned is it is very difficult to compete against the power of incumbency just because of fundraising. The numbers that are coming in for a city council race are just quite stunning. I don't think I'll quote them to you, but maybe you'll look into that yourself and realize it's really amazing what people will spend on a small city council race where the salary is, I think it's $2,800 a month. So it's not a get-rich scheme, and yet the amount of fundraising is amazing. So I think if you had term limits in place, you could cut that down quite a bit because there would be this arms race to fund one candidate against, and the incumbent would be so hard to get out because maybe you serve a couple of terms, you give your experience to your city, and then you step aside, you let some new voices come in. And you know what? I'd like to have a little loophole that says if it turns out the city loved you, well, after you're gone a term, you can come back. And because maybe you were wonderful and we would benefit from that institutional memory. But then again, maybe not. And if you have a cooling down period where we can learn maybe what your contributions were all about and if you should come back or not. But if nothing else, though, every 8 years, there's some turnover on a seat. I think that's a good idea. So that's one thing I would immediately work on. Thank you.
Doesn't work when you turn upside down. But I want to reverse the crime trend. If that's the one thing I do, I want this up to be down, and that's how I'll judge my success. One metric.
Well, the challenge there is it's already happening. and that is documented in the agendas of our Public Safety Committee. I didn't bring the visual aids, but they are published online. You can look at them and do the math. Next time we're together, I'll bring my visual aids too. When it comes to identifying priorities for change, I listened to you. The first time I ran for office, I learned that short-term rentals were a huge problem for many residents. I vowed that I would tackle that, and I did so as a brand new council member. The difficulty with term limits is that many of the problems we face today are regional issues. Air quality, public safety, quite frankly, transportation. You don't gain a seat of influence in the regional bodies where important things happen without a record of service that commands respect from your peers. My record of service has commanded respect from my peers. Peers in our 6-city region have chosen me to represent us in Southern California planning, and it enabled me to help bring home $8 million to help with flood control. That doesn't happen when you're changing players every other day. Yes, use the ballot box for term limits, but not right now. Because I'm in those seats of influence where I can work on the changes that you want.
Julie, next question goes to you. What is your stance on homelessness in Palm Desert, and what steps will you take to address the issue in a compassionate and effective way?
Another regional issue here. And in my time working in county government and in government in general, I've been involved with regional agencies, SCAG, and all these things, acronyms, soup. And one thing I know is that a lot of times they have a very hard time recruiting people who want to serve on these agencies, and a lot of times they'll take any warm body that raises their hand. So I think that in terms of homelessness, this is a regional thing. I think I work for a city that has taken an approach. It's a two-pronged approach before the Supreme Court ruling, which is compassion and law enforcement. So you lead with a helping hand. The problem is homelessness. You have to define your terms. There's sheltered, there's unsheltered. What we're talking about mostly is the unsheltered that we care about the most, because those are the ones that we see. And the unsheltered breaks down into some that want help and are in hard times, and we need to give them help. And then there's some that are suffering from substance abuse and mental health issues, and they need help too. A lot of times, though, they don't accept the help, or they don't want the help. They say they don't want the help, but sometimes they're not even mentally capable of taking it. So the second prong, and this is where I think I would advocate more, is more strength in the enforcement, tightening up our camping ordinances, having our deputies, upstaffing our deputies, and being firmer in enforcing our laws and addressing not homelessness, the people in hard times, but the vagrant homeless that cause problems to our businesses and residents, and getting strong on that level of enforcement to help them either, you need friction to either get them into treatment or to go somewhere else where they'll accept that and let them continue that behavior.
I'm proud of the steps Palm Desert is taking in response to this very challenging issue. First, we are a part of the collaborative work being done by the Coachella Valley Association of Governments, which has established a list of the 200 people on the streets who are making the greatest demands on time of public safety officers and on emergency rooms. We, with other cities, are funding outreach workers to connect with those frequent flyers, if you will, the chronically homeless. And we are having more success here through our collaboration than any place else in the country. Through this program, 20 chronically homeless folks from Palm Desert have been housed in permanent supportive housing where they get the services they need to be well. In our city, we have a task force where law enforcement coordinates with code enforcement and significantly outreach workers that we, the city, fund to connect folks with services. Here's how all that works. Recently, our deputies encountered a woman wandering in the desert. The tools the deputies had available to them to deal with this were limited. She wasn't trespassing. Taking someone in as a 5150 as a high standard. They called our city-funded CityNet outreach workers. They responded immediately, freed our deputies to do other work, and were successful in persuading her to get mental health services. You can be proud of what your city is doing in regard to homelessness, which is both compassionate and respectful of property interests.
Probably the biggest issue we might be addressing tonight that probably can't be addressed in the time we have. I got to speak with an acquaintance of mine who works for the county with the homeless, and he told me a number that really surprised me. He says in the Coachella Valley, so this isn't statewide or anything else, right here in our valley, it takes 57 touches, communications with a homeless person before you can convince them to get into a program to get them off the streets. So that's an average. It would be much higher for some. 57 times you'd have to come. So the amount of resources you'd have to pour into this issue, it's monumental. It's a huge problem to have to try to have that many people talking to homeless, making the outreach problem. The reach is 57 of them. My own brother was a part of that. He college educated, beautiful wife, a couple of healthy kids, a union job, 5 weeks of vacation a year. Liked the alcohol, ended up on the streets, lost it all. It wasn't a happy ending. He's gone. Now, if I had an answer to homelessness, I would have done it. I'd done anything to get him back so he could be right here tonight, making fun of my bald head. I would if I could, but the issue is so big that we all have to pull together. I will learn. I will attend. Hey, you know what? November 20th, we can all do something. The city of Palm Desert is hosting an outreach on the homelessness issue. I think it's at City Hall, but we can all find that out, right? I will be there. I understand that's a hockey game, but I will put that aside, even though it's no Firebirds most of the time in my life. So there are things we can do. We can learn from each other. We can try to avoid getting those kinds of terrible phone calls. I will do everything I can to make sure nobody else gets a phone call like the one I got about my brother. And let's move ahead on this baby steps, right? There's a lot of things. The biggest issues might just be baby steps. Thank you very much.
This is our final question, Kathy. We'll start it off. And what are the top top 3 issues that the city of Palm Desert is facing today, and how would you exercise your authority as a council member to address these issues?
Are you guys tired of hearing me talk about replacing redevelopment? I'm sorry. It's the most important issue facing this city. This city's smart use of redevelopment accounts for much of our quality of life. We have to replace that source of revenue. And I'm proud that even though increased taxes are always bad news to everybody and a political nightmare, that I and the rest of the council had the courage to bring you Measure G. So that's issue number 1. Issue number 2 is energy resilience. We can't trust Edison or IIT to accomplish this for us. In our hot climate, we need to develop ways to have duplicative energy sources. We told a horror story about seniors or others caught in an energy blackout. I've shared with you what I hope to do as we redevelop them all to achieve microgrid pilot projects so that we can achieve energy resilience. And the third priority, quite frankly, is to continue to bolster our flood control. They're calling Hillary a 100-year flood or 500-year flood. But we saw this summer that when a thunderstorm is concentrated someplace like on Somera, it feels just like Hillary. So Measure G again will equip us to strategically bolster our flood control.
Craig, are we getting the final statement, or is this a
Yes, each one of you will get 3 minutes in closing for closing statements.
So priorities, yeah, I think you're getting used to the broken record at this point. To me, our number 1 priority is public safety. I do believe the police budget was slashed in 2020. I look back through the minutes at the meeting where that vote occurred. There were, I think, 30 letters sent in from citizens addressing the issue. Every one of them, I can look it up, let's say almost every one of them, to be accurate, use the term, don't defund the police. That's what people thought at the time was happening. That vote occurred, it happened, and within 2 years, violent crime shot up. Now, has it come down a little bit since then? Yes, it has, but it never returned to the original numbers. So I still think priority #1 is our police budget and public safety. Number 2, I'm going to go ahead and also say Measure G. I think we are stepping over some steps that we could try to use to tighten up the budget and get things straightened out. I don't think we should jump right to a new sales tax. And yes, some other cities have done that, raise their sales tax, but I also at Palm Springs has an oversight committee. Cathedral City is trying to raise their sales tax right now, but written into the ballot issue is we will have an oversight committee. That's my main problem. If we are ever going to have to raise our sales taxes, we need the oversight to make sure the money really gets spent where it should be. Thank you very much.
Top 3 issues, I agree, public safety, you've heard me say that. And I do think that the trends are up regardless of what little we're seeing come down now. And I hear it from residents, I hear some of the horror stories, I hear it from business owners, and I hear it from the deputies. And that's why they're supporting me for city council. Because the boots on the ground see a problem, and they think, Joe, we think you're the guy that can help us in our mission to keep the city safe. homelessness is an issue as well. And it comes back to public safety again, because what we're talking about is two-pronged approach, helping people off the street, but more importantly also enforcing our laws. And number 3 is spending. As we've talked about with Measure G, I think it's evidence that the city is not as well run as it has been conveyed to us over the years. And regardless of the outcome, all 3 issues, I want to restore pride to all the residents that they live in a city with a bright future and that they take pride in a city that is very well run.
Now, each one of you will get 3 minutes for your closing statements, and we're going to start with Greg. He'll be number 1, and then we'll go back down the line. Number 2, Joe.
Thank you for being here tonight. What looks like at least an hour and a half. I appreciate everybody. You guys are the unusual ones because you're actually doing the research. You want to make sure you're supporting candidates that align with your values. Good for you. Now, your job, though, is to go tell 20 friends, right? And I encourage you to do that. So, again, just to make sure we've covered the basic facts, my name is Greg Ackerman, and I grew up in the area. I'm a husband and a father and a parent and a local small business owner, and just a proud member of our community. I've worked my way through our committees here, spent a lot of time trying to make little inroads into making our city better where I could. But I think we can do better. And for example, like we've all heard over and over, public safety, we could do better. We need an upgrade. And secondly, Measure G, I think it's jumping over some other solutions that we should look at first. A real simple solution to me is instead of voting for new taxes, let's vote for a new council. A third issue I just want to mention briefly too that hasn't come up tonight, and I'm just very concerned about this too because of my elderly mother specifically. It takes 3 minutes longer for an ambulance or a first responder to get to your house in Palm Desert than in a nearby city. I'd like to find out why and what we can do about that, because if my relative or if your loved one were having a life and death health issue, I bet that 3 minutes would mean something to you. I know it would to me. So that's an issue also I want to make sure we can figure out what could we do better about that. So I really appreciate you listening and being patient with all of our answers tonight and prompts and whatnot. Thanks so much. For those of you who want to know a little bit more about me, GregAckerman.com is the website. Track me down. You will see my signs. Annoying the heck out of you on various roads out throughout the area. But if you want a sign, let me know. Thanks so much for listening. And whatever you do, just vote and tell a friend. Let's get this done. Thank you.
3 minutes feels like it's an eternity. Oh man, I feel like I can breathe, move around a little bit. This is the final round. I had a squat session yesterday and my legs are all jittery. Worked out before I came here, so I'm getting exhausted running on adrenaline. So I'm glad to bring it to a close. And the close is this. You've seen the choices ahead of you. You have very clear choices and distinct choices. And you are exceptional. And it reminds me a little bit of a story I heard from Adam Carolla, who's a comedian. He was talking when he was growing up in the comedy scene. He would go to these clubs, and Tuesday, Wednesday night, and the only people there were other comedians who were hell-bent on not laughing at your material. So I know most of the folks here have already chosen a side. Not everyone has. But regardless, the reason Palm Desert is great is because of this level of engagement. I am impressed by the level of intelligent, thoughtful people, and I'm not going to earn all of your votes, but I definitely want to thank you all for being here. I'm a natural introvert at heart. I don't necessarily seek this kind of thing. I like to mind my own business, work on my house, play with my kids, read. That's a quiet life. I don't like to get out and do much. I'm a homebody. But when I see a problem, I go to fix it. And right now, as I've expressed to you, you have 2 visions of reality. One reality is that the city's great, and the other that evidence might point contrary to that, like crime is up, homelessness is up, spending has led to a need for a sales tax. So there's 2 worlds. You might be in one, you might be in the other. But what I want to convey to you is if you're in the one where things don't look great, I'm your guy. And I want to also talk about all the right things that the candidates up here have been saying because they're right. And there is also talk about talking the talk and walking the walk. And the talk is easy, getting the right results is hard. And I ask you, look at the results. Beware of leaders who say one thing and do another. And you will know them by their fruit. When I look at this council, what are the fruit? We have animosity on the council, rising crime, rising homelessness, questionable spending that has led us into budget duress and even sales tax. That's the fruit. A good tree bears good fruit, a bad tree bears bad fruit, a good tree does not bear bad fruit, and a bad tree does not bear good fruit. That's bad fruit. So I ask you, how long shall we continue to water a bad tree?
The facts show that Desert is very much on track. Today, we have the lowest vacancy rate on El Paseo that we have had in 15 years. The lowest vacancy rate since the Great Recession. That's a hard fact that shows how our economy is thriving. City services are providing thrifty ways to address traffic safety. Corey Baker shared with me, we just met tonight. He moved from LA. He was concerned about a corner and thought a stop sign should be there. He reached out to City Hall and was amazed that the outgoing mayor, the incoming mayor, the city manager, and the traffic manager all called him, engaged with him in the community, and found a good solution for that corner. Palm Desert excels at responding to residents and finding solutions to issues. We are bringing a major G as a solution before a problem arises. And the oversight exists. It's called the City Finance Committee. They meet publicly, they publish their agenda, and they oversee every financial action of the city. So in addition to the published agendas of the City Council, the Finance Committee provides oversight without any duplicative committee. No one who was in the lead in the Kentucky Derby would switch jockeys halfway around the track. We're in the lead in the Coachella Valley. We are still the envy of others in the Coachella Valley because of the strength of our economy, the strength of our city services. So stick with the same jockey.
Hey folks, consider me going to boss all our candidates tonight. Greg Ackerman, Catherine Kelly, and Joe Padella. Thank you to the Palmer and Chamber of Commerce. My name is Greg Michaels, and on the way out, please feel free to grab one of my flyers at wine and design mixers that happen around the desert. Next month is our first one in October, and it's a great way to support our local nonprofits. Thanks, guys.